So, what if you could actually engineer success in let's call it the chaotic world of deep tech investing? Today, we're going to look at a really structured approach that tries to do exactly that. Turning those high risk gambles into something more like a calculated win. Okay, let's start with a bit of a reality check, shall we? In this gold rush we're seeing with generative AI, a staggering 95% of startups, yeah, 95%, are failing to actually bring in any revenue. I mean, it's a landscape that's just littered with promise, sure, but it's also absolutely filled with peril for investors. And that right there, that's the core challenge, isn't it? In a market that is just flooded with hype, how on earth do you find the companies that are going to survive? And not just survive, but actually thrive? How do you pick out that real signal from all that noise? Which brings us to what you could call the deep tech paradox. I mean, the potential rewards, they're absolutely astronomical. We're talking about reshaping entire industries. But the risks, wow, they're just as huge. And the scale of this paradox is it's immense. Think about it. On one hand, you've got over $50 billion in capital pouring into the deep tech sector. But on the other hand, that capital is running headfirst into a pretty brutal reality. A 95% failure rate. It's like placing a massive bet against just staggering odds. The traditional VC model really struggles in this kind of environment. Investors are just completely overwhelmed by what's called a high-noise deal flow. I mean, literally thousands of pitches. It's impossible to evaluate them all properly. And a lot of the time, the money they're giving out is just passive capital. It's a check, sure, but it's missing that deep, hands-on support that these young tech companies so desperately need to get over all the hurdles. So the big question is, how do you solve this? Well, YB Group's answer is pretty simple. Replace all that guesswork with a system. They've actually engineered their own framework, and they call it the 42MTRX. So what is it exactly? Well, the 42MTRX is a systematic validation framework. Its whole purpose, its entire reason for being, is to de-risk the investment process. It takes these raw ideas and pushes them through a really structured pipeline. And what comes out the other side are ventures that aren't just promising, they're genuinely investor-ready, with real, verifiable traction. And here's how it works. The whole process unfolds in 4 clear stages. First up is sourcing, where they find promising ideas from their network. Then comes the really critical part, the validation phase. This is where ideas are stress-tested like crazy to separate what's real from what's just, fiction. For the few that make it through, there's the acceleration stage, which is all about hands-on support to build the actual business. And the result of all that? An investor-ready venture, totally de-risked and just primed for growth. And get this systematic approach has a real measurable impact. By building AI-driven due diligence right into their framework, they've boosted their efficiency by up to 40% when they're evaluating investments. And what that really means is they can look at more opportunities, go deeper on each one, and do it all in less time. That's a huge advantage. When you put them side by side, the contrast is just stark. The old way, traditional investing, is reactive. You're just sifting through that noisy deal flow and handing out passive capital. The YB model, on the other hand, is proactive. It creates its own validated deal flow using the 42MTRX. And this is so crucial, their funds are actually run by entrepreneurs who bring that active, real-world operational expertise to the table. Now, this framework isn't just some idea on a whiteboard. It's the actual engine powering a diverse, multi-fund investment platform. This is where the system really gets put in action, across a whole range of different asset classes. So their platform is built on 4 distinct pillars, which all work together to create a really balanced portfolio. You've got the high growth potential of venture and growth equity, that's balanced out by the stability of private equity, and then complementing all of that, you have the fixed income from real estate development and the long-term wealth preservation of heritage real estate. And what this structure does is give investors something pretty unique. It's access to an exclusive off-market deal flow, combined with the flexibility to spread their capital across all these different risk profiles. Everything from aggressive growth all the way to long-term legacy building. Okay, so let's zoom in a little and look at how these funds really cater to different investor needs, creating this whole spectrum of opportunities. All right, this table really lays it all out. Over on the high-risk, high-reward end, you've got the venture fund, which is targeting 5 to 10x returns, all powered by that 42MTRX deal flow we talked about.
Now, if you're looking for something more moderate, the private equity fund aims for 2 to 3x returns by using their deep industrial expertise. And for stability and income, you've got two great options: a short-term real estate bond with a fixed 8-12% yield, or the Heritage Fund for that steady, long-term, low-risk cash flow. It's a portfolio that's really designed to give you options.
So building on this really solid foundation, YB Group is now launching a brand new, focused fund that takes this entire philosophy and aims squarely at the future of industry. They're raising a 50 million Swiss franc fund specifically for this. Think of it as a really concentrated bet on the next wave of industrial innovation, but one that's been de-risked by their proven framework. And just look at the sectors they're targeting. These aren't just buzzwords, right? These are the critical pillars of our modern economy. We're talking about everything from AI-driven manufacturing and the huge need for data center cooling, all the way to sustainability and green tech. This fund is positioned right at the heart of where the world is going. This quote really nails their entire mission. They're institutionalizing innovation. What does that mean? It means taking all the guesswork and the pure gamble out of early-stage investing. It's about applying a rigorous, structured process to create ventures that are ready to perform right from day one. So when you boil it all down, YB Group is playing two roles at the same time. On one hand, it's an innovation framework that nurtures and validates these groundbreaking ideas. And on the other, it's a capital efficiency engine, making sure that investor money is put to work smartly and with a much higher chance of success. And all this leaves us with one final and, I think, crucial question. In a world that's being more and more defined by data and systems, is unstructured gut feel investing even an option anymore? Or is an engineered approach, like the one we've just walked through, the only logical way forward? Thanks for joining me for this explainer.